Welcome to the Mind Body Therapy Summit, guys. My name is Stacey Hackett. I have the pleasure of working with the Embody Lab, and I also have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for today and this session. So we have got Fran Booth with us, and I am so excited for today's session. So it is Somatic IFS, the internal family systems. So I'm just going to do a little intro for Fran before she takes it away. So Frances Booth, LICSW, is a certified IFS therapist, consultant and international trainer, and colleague to Richard Schwartz, who is the founder of IFS, and Susan McConnell, who's the author of Somatic IFS. As a clinical social worker, Fran's somatically focused practice specialties are trauma, anxiety, depression, cancer, eating, and attachment disorders. Frances Booth is a cisgendered white heterosexual woman of Irish-German descent, and she is speaking to us today from the land of, and I really do hope that I pronounced this correctly, so it's Narragansett, Niantic, of the Wampanoag peoples, which is now known as Rhode Island.
Yes. Oh,
I love that. So honoring the ancestors of the land that she is sitting on. So she comes to us today and is going to, it's going to be an amazing session, I'm sure. So over to you, Fran.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you to the Mind Body Summit and all of the staff that's been working very hard to make this happen. Lots of emails back and forth, and a big welcome to all of you. I'm delighted that you've chosen to come to this seminar and workshop. I'm well aware that it's a wide-ranging audience. Some of you are professionals, both either in the mental health field or medical or counseling or coaching or teaching, or others of you are just interested in knowing more about IFS, and in particular, perhaps somatic IFS. So I've prepared something that I hope will meet the wide variety of needs out there. If there's some term I'm using or something I say, I will be pausing periodically throughout our time together, just opening up for a little bit of space for questions so that you can, feel grounded in the language. I want to say that what we'll be doing in this 90 minutes is first I'm going to give you kind of what I would say Fran's Cliff Notes guides to understanding IFS. So for those of you for whom it might be new, I'm going to do an overview so that you can have a basic framework to understand how the model, the paradigm works. And then because the somatic IFS piece, Susan McConnell's work, is solidly sits inside within the IFS framework. And I will be highlighting in my presentation to you today ways in which they work together. It will be a mix of didactic and experiential. So I will be teaching you some concepts initially, and then we'll have little mini practices. As always, all the practices are always optional. And if that's always something important to examine, and I'm going to be emphasizing that today, to be listening inside of yourself to, do I want to do this? Yes or no? And then maybe exploring what the no might be about, and learning to listen to your own body signal around yes and no. So that's the frame. We have 90 minutes. There's a lot to do. I do have a part that wants to say it's a touch into, it's not a deep dive, but I think it'll give you a good sense of the concepts of both IFS and somatic IFS. So I'm delighted to be with you and share with you this offering today, and I hope that my vision is that each of you might find one or two takeaways that have meaning for you personally. So with that said, I look forward to diving in. So I want to share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint, and it is in the chat, or they're going to put it in the chat. And that's just kind of a guide. And what I will be doing at different times is sort of even stopping the share so I can sort of connect with you a little bit. So Somatic IFS, Somatic Internal Family Systems Therapy, as I said, the book is by Susan McConnell, recently published. It's really a comprehensive examination of many or most of the body-focused modalities that are available right now in the trauma-informed psychotherapy field, as well as integrating knowledge from many diverse fields, shamanism and body-based nature practices. And I mean, Susan has done an incredible job integrating a wide variety of body-informed ways of thinking and being in the world. And of course, as I said, the IFS model is brought to us by the founder, Dr. Richard Schwartz, who's on the panel speaking tomorrow. And one way, I have parts that, you know, my manager, my thinking parts like to have a good definition to start us off with. So I've started us with my definition. Oh, wait a minute, I have to, let me get us going this way. Hang on, it's talking to me. Okay. All right. So this internal family systems, it's a comprehensive therapeutic paradigm which views the multiplicity of the mind as normal, as our natural state, and the parts we have inside of us. We have internally these subpersonalities, or what we call parts. And these parts we have can be healed or transformed by allowing what we call self, but many other models would call the inner wisdom, the healer, the inner healer, the wisdom within, by allowing that resource that is in each of us to lead the system and to serve as a healer in the system. Hang on a second, I just want to do this. Now, for me, this visual tells a big piece of the story. This is a sculpture that was out at Burning Man several years ago, 2015, I believe, and the sculptor is Alexander Milov, and he titled it Love. But what I love about it is that it definitely depicts how we are in relationships. So we would say in IFS that we have these protectors, and they would be represented by that external skeleton. And then inside those protectors are exiles, places of vulnerability, places that are longing for connection. But often we end up showing the world, or showing our partners, our protectors, and our vulnerability might be hidden within. So in some ways, I feel like this picture is a snapshot about the multiplicity aspect of IFS. And then the other big cornerstone, obviously, is that we have this embodied energy inside of us, this self energy that's available. And again, many, both spiritual tradition and other models embrace the concept that we have within us wisdom. Oops. Now, this piece, but what's important about IFS, this is I'm giving you a little backstory to this next slide, which is a video clip from the movie, The Horse Whisperer. But the understanding that we have parts and we have this wisdom within, that self-energy that is available for healing. And what does that look like? Or what does that really mean? And this video clip from The Horse Whisperer, I have found, is an incredible teacher about what it means to have self-energy internally inside of us, working with different parts inside of ourselves. So the clip is, I'm going to give a little backstory to the movie in case some of you might be younger and maybe haven't seen it. But of course, this is Robert Redford. And this was Scarlett Johansson's breakout movie. And the movie opens with a scene where, and it's based on a true story, And I'm only going to show you 7 minutes. But the movie opens, it tells a story where this young adolescent, 2 adolescent girls, they're horseback riding. It's a beautiful vista in some, it looks to me like somewhere in Colorado. And as the movie unfolds, you learn that there's a serious traumatic accident, and the horses have slid down an icy slope, and the one girl has died, and Scarlett Johansson's character has a serious leg injury because the horses have slid onto the road at the bottom of the hill as a tractor trailer has been coming around, and there's this horrible accident. So what happens both in real life and as the movie unfolds, that you see this family, and you see the mother in particular frantically trying to help this young daughter who's grieving and has had a severe trauma. And, they've done all the traditional kinds of things that they can figure out. And of course, in that sort of last ditch effort, they're going to go west, and they're going to meet with this horse whisperer, because the mom has heard that maybe this horse whisperer can help somehow. And as the movie continues, you see the horse whisperer begins to try to work with this traumatized system. The mom, the daughter, and the horse, we would call a traumatized system. And you see him begin with, how can he intervene? And he basically decides the only way I can get into this system is if I work with the horse. So the scene that I'm going to share with you now is, you see the horse whisperers begun to work with the horse. And you'll see the horse be startled, and I'm going to let the rest, let you take in the rest of it. But I want you to imagine that the horse would be a traumatized part inside of either yourself or perhaps someone you care about or you're working with. That this horse itself is holding the trauma. And how does the horse whisperer work with this traumatized being? So this is a place to open up, so I can check in with people and put in the chat, open up the chat, please. So just take a moment to really let that land. And what I'd like to invite you, what is horse whispering? If there were words for what he was whispering to that traumatized being, what would those words be? And just pop them in the chat. Yes, I am safe. What else is he whispering, so to speak? It's safe to be here. It's safe to be seen. Yes. You can trust me. He's basically inviting him. It's a big invitation. If you could trust me, he's basically saying, I get it that you don't want to, right? I get it that you don't want to let anyone ride you again, that you've been traumatized. But if you could trust me, I could help you. We could train together, and I could help you regain what you were born to do, which was the joy of being ridden and riding and being ridden. But yes, he's giving this traumatized being the choice. It's your choice to decide if you will trust me or not. What else? I accept you. I see you. I'm here. Yes, I always say he doesn't go into the barn to do the chores, right? He stays. And this is what I would say to you is embodied self energy. This is this full expression of extending and directing self energy to a traumatized part. Take your time. There's no rush. It's your choice, right? This is you. I feel like the clip kind of communicates in a very embodied way what the state of embodied self-energy is, what we're, kind of talking about today. And really what this is the foundation of IFS, that IFS is about bringing embodied self energy towards traumatized places inside of ourselves and inside of anyone we love, if we're working with them as clients or family members, just how to, it's the kind of presence you would bring if you're sitting with someone as they're moving towards dying, right? It's the same kind of energy. So, yeah, it's beautiful. All the things. It's going to be okay. You can trust me. I'm here. I respect you. I understand. There's no rush. All of those things are in the energy of that, what he's communicating by just his presence. So, yeah, let me just see if there's anything else I want to say about that for our purposes today. I think I would say to you, when we move later to thinking about working with the body, that kind of presence is significant to explore what might be going on in the body. Like, how do we bring a kind of gentle but openness to hearing and listening, and being open to hearing in many different kinds of modes? How do we listen? I call it embodied listening. How do we listen to the body? I show this both to is a beautiful example of what working with protectors or working with exiles, working with parts in IFS, embodied self-energy, but also as part of working with the body in somatic IFS. So I'll close down the chat for now. I'm going to go back to sharing my PowerPoint. And so again, in IFS, we would say we want to bring that kind of embodied self-energy to working with the different parts, whether it's protectors or the exiles. And when you're working with protectors, it's important that there's a couple of really important differentials that I believe IFS has that many other models still haven't quite integrated. That's still unique to IFS. One is that we do this we facilitate a direct relationship with parts. So we are looking to have a part, and let me just say a couple things about, different kinds of parts. What I mean by protectors and exiles or vulnerabilities in ourselves. The protectors are all different kinds of ways we can show up in the world. It can be both our thinking and planning and organizing and sort of our more the ways we run our lives. And it can also be things that often are the symptoms that bring somebody into someone's office, or things that might trouble you. It might be, maybe too much drinking or too much eating, or too much time on the phone, or too much porn, or whatever it might be, sort of a kind of a symptom of something that you find troubling and you want to address, or you want to, or if you find it troubling, we would say in IFS that those are two different parts. And what's important about IFS is that the part of someone that is often troubling is often holding information that's significant. And so we are very interested in developing relationships with the parts of people that often are the parts that people want to get rid of. And we do it in a very particular way, which was we try to establish this direct relationship. So just as the horse whisperer was talking, sort of whispering with the horse, that's the similar model. That picture tells the story about how you might work with a part inside of yourself. The part of you that maybe goes for dessert more than you want to. And rather than being mad at it or trying to manage it or trying to make it smaller or having all sorts of strategies, what about the possibility of going to listen to it, to try to understand why it does what it does? Another key, and so part of that is we bring this deep respect, just as was modeled in the movie, this deep respect for parts, and we want to understand them. And very often we're trying, there's this assumption that they are serving some role as a protector in some way. And that's going to get clear in this next I'm going to show a little video clip from my own practice.
Okay.
All right, so this is, I'm going to show you a clip from my office relatively recently. It was someone, we pop into this clip in the middle of a session, and it's someone that has given me permission at other times to videotape. So I trusted that I could start taping just in the middle as we were doing a particular piece of work that I want to show you. And then I did get, I double checked and got permission later. So I'm just trying to show you just just a minute here. But what I'm doing is interviewing directly. I am interviewing the part of her that wants the food. And I want you to hear what we learn. Wants the food.
Desperately.
Okay. So I want you to really notice that I am not here to criticize you or yell at you. And I know that there are parts inside of Kay that actually do that a lot with you. I genuinely want to understand you and everything about why you want the food so big.
I mean, other than chemically.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it's a form of comfort.
So it's a form of comfort.
Yeah.
And does that feel right when I say it back to you?
Yes. Something or someone is there. In other words, if I do this, I get a reaction. So there's something or someone there to know, either for me to notice or to notice me.
Yeah, so part of what drives it is that it does activate that other part. And for you, it feels like somebody's noticing that you're there. So that's really significant. And I'm just going to go to the next slide. Wants the food. Let's see. Right. So what Kay is describing, I'm interviewing the part directly, and it's telling me, and you can see as I started, I'm trying to create a relationship so that the part itself can sense that it's talking to me, and then I have a little bit of that, or hopefully a lot of that horse whispering kind of energy, like a lot of open-heartedness or curiosity. I'm just genuinely interested in knowing it. And I'm differentiating from other parts inside of Kay that can be very critical of this part. So, right, that's a common polarization inside. Somebody wants the food, and then maybe a part that's critical or shaming about wanting the food. And when we listen to the part tell its story, the part that wants the food, it says, in this case, it says, it actually wants to activate the inner critic, because the critic is a connection to someone. And when this happened, I was really moved by it, because knowing the history here, knowing that when Kay was young, there was a lot of neglect. Like, she spent a lot of time in the playpen while one parent was working and another parent was ill upstairs. And she just was in the playpen for hours and hours and hours. And so the idea that the one that wants the food would obviously use it for comfort and then use it actually to activate a connection was new information both to her and to me. So that's just a little snapshot about the ways that these parts inside of us can actually give us information, tell us their story, why they do what they do, if we create what I call sometimes the listening room, what's the quality of the listening? And the quality of the listening is meant to be that kind of horse whispering energy, that kind of open, I'm interested, curious. And the other important snapshot at having this little picture here with you, just again to another piece of IFS is it's a systemic theory. It was based on, Dr. Richard Schwartz, when he he was a systemic family therapist doing, external systems only, doing external family therapy with families in the room. And over time started to ask clients about what was happening inside of their heads and applied the same kinds of thinking that was being used commonly at that time in external family systems work. Polarizations, this is a polarization. Thinking that inside of us, these different parts, they have relationships with each other. Some of them like each other. There's like teams that like each other and teams that don't like each other. And that a lot of times these really strong ones that show up first are protectors, and underneath is vulnerability. The parts of ourselves that either in Kay's case was about being alone. So the part that wants the food and the part that yells at her about eating all the food are both protectors to the part of her that was very much alone. So that's another kind of quick way to kind of understand what internal family systems is about. It's that we have inside of us these different parts. These parts have relationships with each other. If we listen to these parts, they can tell us their stories, why they do what they do. And that often the protectors are, and there's two categories of parts, the protectors and then the vulnerabilities. And of course, we have the resource of self-energy to heal and to resource. All right, so that's my Fran's mini course on internal family systems.